All right, welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. My name is Martin Grunberg. I'm going to give you a quick tour of UBM, explain what it is and what it is not. I want to be clear. This is not a critique on behavioral science. Rather, it's an investigation upon the current condition and find that there is a crisis in psychology. There is no shared paradigm. By the way, this is 1962. We can fast forward all the way today. This is just truncated, but it continues. And that interview with Greg was just 3 years ago. A crisis exists. When you have fragmentation, you have incoherence. Again, I'm not being mean. I'm not even being critical. These are their words, the experts' words, academics, scientists saying there's no unifying framework. It's an impossible dream to unify. I'm going to show you how it's actually been done. So stick around. So this is today. Very good therapies, very good frameworks, all very helpful. And they're based on distinctions. What you have with specialization is fragmentation. So where in nature, because these are literally called branches of psychology, branches of behavioral science. Yet every predominant theorist will say it's nonsensical, their words, not mine, because there's no trunk. Where in the world, in nature, will you ever find branches and no trunk? It doesn't exist. So we take the self-described incoherence, again, not my words, their words, I just showed you, and we make it coherent. Now, how do we do that? Well, before we go there, I want to show you one other graphic. This is very telling. This is every behavioral model since essentially the beginning of time with a unification attempt. And they have all struggled because none, I'll just cut to the chase, none have been elemental. There is only one that's unified, elemental, testable. In other words, if you can produce, and the reason I'm making this video, it's very exciting. We are at the 11th month. There's approximately 30 days left. Identify a fifth element and UBM explodes or implodes and we can all go home. But this has been presented because there is a self-described incoherence in crisis. So we, the royal we, have taken the time to present this. The best part, the usability angle, which I hope to show you, is we're already teaching this. It is so elemental. It is so basic. It is so powerful. And those are words from our students that it's already helping them. And I'll show you that later. Who habits? All right. So again, brilliant theories, models, all very helpful and fragmented. So this, I'm glad we showed you that first. This is a model of human behavior. So behavior is the middle concentric circle. It is bookended elementally by two major components. The environment, which includes one's body. Behaviorally speaking, it's a behavior model, so we're going to speak about behavior. Behaviorally speaking, if I have a toothache or a broken arm, it's a stimulus. If I have a headache, I feel different, I behave differently, I think differently. I think this sucks. It hurts. I'm going to go lay down. If there's a noisy construction site, external, or somebody knocks on the door, I think, who is that? I feel startled or annoyed, and I get up and answer the door, or I slam the door because it's noisy. The point is, this is a closed causal structure, precisely what William James had asked for all the way back in 1892. This is what makes it testable. This is what makes it hard science. Now, people begin to say, well, you cannot create a new language system. You can't say your body is the same as the external environment. And I will say, without creating a language system, it's very easy. It's a model of behavior. It's not a model of a person. If I were modeling a person, I could never say a construction site affects me the same way as a toothache. If I take medicine, right, that goes into my body, it changes how I feel, changes how I behave, and it changes how I think. The environment in an elemental behavior model, your body is the most proximate stimulus. It's a model of behavior. So if I go here and I say, this is me driving up to Del Mar, you know that's not me. It's a blue dot. That's not you. Yet we look at this and we're confused. So this is behavior. It's bookended by the environment and our thinking. You see, specialists, scientists are very good at teasing things apart and specializing. And that's wonderful. It's very, very helpful. But when the goal is to produce an elemental model of behavior, that means elemental sufficiency, the fewest pieces, the fewest elements, there are just 4. We begin with behaviors, which is why it's number 1. By the way, that's the construction zone. So the color scheme behind this is very important. This is where we can shape behaviors. Inaction is even an observable action. If I'm a stoic and I'm raging mad and I do nothing, well, that's a behavior. Inaction. Habits and skills are shaped behaviors. If I know how to tie my shoe or play the piano, is that a skill or is it a habit? Yes, it's both. Teasing apart versus putting together. So we begin with behaviors. Now we're going to move to environment, stimulus. I've already talked you through the construction site versus the toothache. We need, if we're modeling human behavior, we need context. We need a place to behave. We need a body to behave. So that's the second element. The first is behaviors. The second is environment, external and embodied. The third is cognition. Now, certainly people behave all the time without thinking. But if we're modeling human behavior in an elementally sufficient manner, we must include cognition. And based on a lot of Mark Turner's great work, he's written a lot for decades about how humans think predominantly in terms of stories to plan, predict, and explain things, events, circumstances, experiences. That doesn't mean we only think in terms of stories. Predominantly we do. We script. Oh, I parked there once. I got my car dinged. Einstein, because people push back. I'm very logical. I don't think in terms of stories. That's nonsense, with all due respect. You absolutely do. Einstein was pretty logical, yet he smoked. There's zero logic behind that. The story he would share is it helped him relax. So we have behaviors. We have an environment, a body, and external stimulus. We're modeling behavior. What I'm doing right now, behaving. I'm talking to you. And the last is emotions and feelings. So I'm going to go back to the behavior ecosystem, only this time I'm going to step back and play a clip that I use in my executive coaching course. I was interviewing Ted Rice. He's a fitness coach, a celebrity fitness coach. He had me on his podcast. And interestingly enough, he had not seen the behavior ecosystem, because it's one thing to say these are the 4. That's a very important part. But the second part is to reveal how they interrelate. Let's listen to Ted. This is a tragic story. And as he's describing his struggle through depression, he articulates the behavior ecosystem, which is personal. What do I mean by personal? You and only you live in your behavior ecosystem now and forever, even if you had an identical twin, because your stories and your DNA, your body, are unique to you. So it's personal, it's perpetual. You'll be in it till you die. And it's dynamic. Sometimes if I step on a subway, right, environment, I may think this is dangerous. And then I may feel danger, anxious, right? It's a closed causal structure. It's dynamic. So I know he hasn't seen this, and he articulates it beautifully.
feel that even though people may not have the same type of, you know, national news story with a family member murdered, we all have this stuff that happens to us. And to what you shared, a lot of what you shared, these things that happen to us, they change the way we think, and then it change the way we feel. And when the way we think and feel gets changed, it changes our behaviors, and then the habits that you talked about. And then these habits then in turn shape us even more. We stay up late. We get on social media. We watch serial killer documentaries and wonder why we think the world's such a terrible place.
Right.
And it's like you feel bad. A lot of your thoughts are negative, and a lot of the way you feel is negative.
Right.
We have the power to change that. So, and one of the things why I got into fitness is because it's one of the, not only can our thoughts and feelings affect our behaviors and our habits, but our habits can affect our thoughts and feelings. And one of the things that helped me get back from that dark place after my brother was murdered was I got into the habit of fitness.
So that is a brilliant, albeit tragic, articulation of the behavior ecosystem, the four elements in a closed causal structure, how they play out in the moment. Right now, I'm in your environment. It may be changing how you feel. You may be taking notes. You may think this is stupid. You may think this is very helpful. The point is, your behaviors are being guided within this closed causal structure. The goal to create coherence, to move away from incoherence, their term, to move away from fragmentation to a unified framework, we need elementality. We need elemental sufficiency. And that's what we have here. Anything you point out or the large language models can come up with, we've had a theorist propose perception. Now, perception, I need to see something in the environment, and I need a body to see it. We're modeling human behavior, not the person. If we were modeling biology, we could never say that the environment and the eyes or the body are the same. But we're modeling behavior. We're modeling what influences behavior in the moment and shapes it over time. So you say perception. I say interesting, because I need to see something in my environment, and then I need a body. I need eyes to see it. Plus, in the case of the professor who submitted the duck-rabbit illusion, if I've never seen a duck or a rabbit, there's no pattern recognition. So the point is, perception is not a fifth element. It's a compound. It emerges from environment, cognition, and we could do this with just about anything. Motivation. I mean, there have been thousands of books, a lot of study around motivation. It's very important, but it's not elemental in a model of behavior. It is not elemental. First of all, I could be low on blood sugar. I could have a story that I don't want to freaking do this. It's an emotion, so it can be subsumed by any or all of these. A lot of times, emotions, because they're ephemeral, they they emerge from the interplay between environment, what I'm seeing, and my cognition. This is why two people can see the same thing, the same event, the same sports event, the same political event, and have two different stories and then behave differently and have different emotions. Here we go. Feelings and emotions connect and relay information and energy in our behavior ecosystem. It's not an ecosystem. As I explained before, we could share a room, that would be an ecosystem. We can share a country, we can share a lot of things. We could be on a boat together, an ecosystem. But an ecosystem, it's because of the reverberation, the information flow between our stories, how it affects our feeling, how it may or may not affect our behaviors, how it may or may not, I may feel a certain way and then take a walk outside. It's a closed causal structure. There's nothing outside this. What gets extremely exciting and what we're teaching in behavior architecture is how to use this as a goal-directed model. We can introduce it in an hour and people get it. Over 8 days, approximately 8 hours, they come out the other side with an entirely new view, not just of their behavior, but how to achieve their goals. So, final thing I want to leave you with is this wasn't like I woke up one day and was just like, hey, I think we figured out an elemental model. No, I want to share with you, in 2005, I started writing a book called The Habit Factor. It was published in 2010. It is representative, and I didn't know there were 3 books. I didn't know there was a model. I was just trying to understand and articulate and share after teaching people that working on creating habits and aligning them to your goals is a more effective and efficient means to achieve those goals. So I'm going to do this in the condensed version. That was the Habit Factor, 2010 published. As I was coaching people, I recognized immediately that despite their commitment to track, to craft habits, things on the outside would derail them, or even behaviorally speaking, their bodies. So they would be sick, or they were taking care of their parents, or they were in a lawsuit, and they couldn't craft consistently the habits because the environment was derailing them. So I said, let's study the environment. And that's precisely what we did with the pressure paradox. We focused on pressure, royal we again, because environment could be, 1,000 different things and probably 1,000 books. Focused on pressure because it affects productivity, performance, and peace of mind. There's our buddy Abe Lincoln right there. So experts were saying pressure is the enemy of success. Abraham Lincoln, Nelson Mandela, Gandhi all went through extreme pressure. Pressure cannot be the enemy of success. In fact, it turns out pressure is neutral, just like the force of habit is neutral. Not good, not bad, neutral. Can we harness these forces? And it turns out we can. So as I'm finishing the pressure paradox, look what emerges. 3 circles. The chapter is actually called 3 circles, and it's in immature fashion. Emotions and feelings are not defined as the borders yet. This is 2015. But I realize that when I look at this, come on, the inner circle is about thinking. And I'm thinking, I don't want to write another book about thinking. That's been done. But as I told you earlier, I studied, the more research I did, I found Mark Turner's work. So pardon the language, we recognized that what we have here is, if not, it's obviously about thinking, it's about cognition, but it's largely about stories, which is why it's the dominant word in the middle. That's driving how we feel, how we behave. Not all the time. It has the ability to influence. So with those 3, it became, as we were finishing the book, we recognized that the model came to absolute fruition. So this is 20 plus years work of teaching, of coaching,